The Gift That Unwraps You. Title: The Gift That Unwraps You, Toastmaster Siddarth HegdeW.
There he stood, with my wedding gift in his hands. He smiled. "This is the best gift ever," he says. I was excited. "My king, it is the thought that counts." He shakes his head. "No, it is not. Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters, it was the test tubes that got me and Alan together in school. One day, I flicked a test tube from the laboratory and I ran behind the school canteen during the break, along with a can of Pepsi. I wanted to drink Pepsi from the test tube. So as I poured the drink into the tube, I saw a familiar face. His eyes were filled with excitement. He had a grin from one ear to another. It was Alan. And he ran towards me, running, pulling out a tube and a can of Mirinda. So we huddled together, and he says, "Let's mix Pepsi and Mirinda together and drink." And I agree. We mix Pepsi and Mirinda together in the tubes. We clink and we drink. And after a couple of clinkings and drinkings, we spot another familiar face. This time, his eyes are not friendly. His eyes are so cold that he froze. It was Mr. Das. Mr. Das, a sportsmaster, sporting a sponge, trudging all the way towards us. And he knew something was wrong. Oh yes, something was wrong. I ditched the tube under the ledge of the canteen, and Alan put it behind his back pocket. As Mr. Das approached us, he ordered us to sit down, and Alan sat crack. And I just looked at Alan. Alan was looking at me, and he started laughing too. And we laughed. We laughed so hard. We laughed so long, all the way up to the doghouse, the headmaster's office. Well, that's the first of the many stories that we shared together. Many years later, right after college, it did seem that we met again, and this time in Daman, a beautiful Portuguese territory on the west coast of India facing the sea, and we were on this boat ride. Just the two of us along with the fisherman on this thin, skimpy boat, which was motorized at one end, and off we were going, bouncing up and down, cutting through all the waves, and Alan the stand was right behind me, and he just stood up, and with the wind in his hair, and with a bottle of beer in his hand, he screams out, "I'm the king of this world!" And suddenly, a wave hits us from the side, rocks the boat to and fro, and I was holding on to my dear life. Alan gets knocked out of my sight. And I just waited for the boat to come onto calmer waters, and then I turned around, and to my relief, Alan was in the boat. But there was something unusual, really unusual. As I saw, Alan was on top of the beer bottles, all crushed because of his weight. It was like deja vu. First the test tube, now the bottle. I looked at it. And then shamelessly, I started laughing. Alan was sprawled on the boat. Realizing what had happened, he began to laugh too. Do you realize, after spending many years apart, there's certain moments that still remain the same? 10 years later, I walk into Alan's house a week after he's got married with his wedding gift. Alan unwraps the gift, opens the box, and he smiles. Inside the box was a can of Pepsi, a can of Mirinda, a bottle of beer, and 2 test tubes. "This is the best gift ever," he says. And I got excited and says, "My king, it is the thought that counts." Alan shook his head. No. It's not the thought that counts. It's the stories that are attached to this gift that counts. Friends, how many times have you been disappointed with the gifts that you received that was so unimaginable, so useless? And you have relationships with those givers that force you to console yourself by saying that it is the thought that counts. Each time you receive a gift that has no meaning. It just seems that you give yourselves excuses beforehand for the gifts that we receive which have no value to us. Like Adam, each of us in this room have friends and companions. Some stay, some come and go. But when you get the opportunity to gift, we need to make the most of it. Not for the sake of it. By giving the right gift, you pay tribute to the time that was well spent together. Adam did not bother about the cost of the gift, nor did he keep a track of the times we stayed in touch with each other. What really mattered was the feelings that gave him the reason to remind him of how it all began, where we are now, and where we'd like to take this friendship to. Later that evening, Alan and I celebrated and relived the moments that we had had before. We were clinking and we were drinking. So, whatever the occasion calls for, choose the right gift to evoke stories, to remind themselves of you, to remind yourselves that there is a relationship that still exists because you want it. Contest check.